For next. Where's Bobby? Are you doing happy dollars?
Happy dollar. New Year's been up to man.
Well, I have one.
All right.
If I can find it. Today is my son's birthday.
Okay.
And he was born on Epiphany, as you all may know, and he was actually a real epiphany for me because I was a young mother. So we somewhat grew up together, and he's smarter than me, and he's in Florida with his lovely wife having fun.
All right. Get married at 12.
I did. No, actually, I didn't.
13.
I've got two, one for the vet in the house. I thank you for taking good care of Bella. She had a growth removed from her eye. I was so hesitant, but it was. Thank you. And the other one was for, yes, my anniversary here. I feel like I've actually been here for 22 years because I really was a wife of an extraordinary Rotarian, my husband now. And when he died, I knew that I could not live without this. So it is an honor.
I got one.
Oh, let me just
Yeah.
set up an account.
That's for my, you should, I probably owe something on it too. That's for Mike Anderson, my old dog, Otto, who, while we don't announce dog birthdays in here, he will be 14 Saturday. Assuming he makes it, I gotta go see Mike, he's dragging a foot and whatnot, but he still wants to come to work. And he still fights with Gretchen, so I think there's a little time left on him, I don't know.
Has he been any dogs a year or so?
He has not taken any years, in at least a year. We're gonna need, you know what, when I get his replacement, I'm gonna name him Mike, as in Mike Tyson. That's all.
Reminded me of Mike Tyson's daughter.
Bobby, what's happening with the Westminster Kennel Club?
They postponed it last week. We went back and forth. Actually, I'm quite relieved because it was gonna be a challenge to take a whole bunch of people to New York City in the middle of all this. So it'll be probably in June. We'll kick it down the road again this year. Hopefully we'll be back at that big estate up on the Hudson River, North City. Probably a game time. It'd be great. But I had to send back $255,000 yesterday. Everybody that entered got their money back. Yeah, Robbie, thank you. Any more?
If I have one, but I don't have $1, I'll have to then pay you. This may be humorous, but it's sad in a way, but so I have an 8-year-old granddaughter and she has COVID. So she's out of school this week, but she also lost a tooth. And so Tooth Fairy's very different now. She gets a lot of money for teeth and she put it in the envelope. And my daughter sent me a picture of the envelope that it said, "Please sanitize. I have COVID-19. Of course, she didn't spell sanitize right, but you can read it and know what it says.
Stand up like SAN.
Sanitize.
Well, I remember, after New Year's, I was called, some of you may remember this story where Grandpappy went out and got drunk on New Year's. He told me the next morning he had taken a bus home. And I said, "Oh, that's great." He says, "Yeah." He said, "I've never driven a bus before." Now there's a bus in my driveway. I don't know what to do with it.
Anybody have any announcements? Danielle, you have anything?
No, other than just checking on our friends Brian and Chris.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, for y'all that, and I think I put that in the email maybe, about Chris Jackson. He had a motorcycle accident, I believe, on Sunday of this past week. Couple of broken bones, fractures.
2 broken legs, 2 broken arms, 1 arm in multiple places. And I understand he has a slightly used motorcycle that's up for sale. And as I told him, he sent a picture out. He pretty well destroyed the car that hit it. I still don't know what happened.
I drove past it, actually, not knowing that it was the front of that, wasn't it a white van?
Yeah.
It was.
The front of the vehicle, well, the other vehicle was destroyed. You can imagine what that did to Chris and his motorcycle.
I did
So,
speak to his mom.
yeah.
Yesterday. She was saying he's having his last, surgeries, she said, but that, he would have a long road ahead. But he's.
I'd like to be alive.
Yeah.
Where is he?
I'm gonna check. I know that Brian is at Moses Cone and the department director's really sweet, so I haven't heard from Chris yet. So I was gonna check with some of my friends over there, but he's probably at Cone as well. It likely was transferred to West Long and then over to Cone for the surgery. So I'll know a little bit more just to make sure if there's anything that we can do as a club. I had a client recently that fractured both of her arms and pelvis and all that stuff. And, you know, it's just the little things that mean so much to them right now, because with the COVID surge, I'm sure we all heard, but you know, they're limiting visitors. So you're up there in that hospital all by yourself. It's a terrible place to be right now. So if you can reach out to them, I'm sure it would make a big difference.
And you may not know, I don't think I put this in the email because I didn't want to until I asked Brian. Brian Kaiser had emergency intestinal surgery, I believe on Sunday, and he's still in the hospital. And I asked him if it was okay to share, so we'll try to find out so you can maybe send a card.
I did say Chick-fil-A had nothing to do with that.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Other than, Tom is building his board for next year. So if you get a call from Tom Richardson, please take
Don't
it.
answer.
Say yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You good to go there, Phil? Yes, sir. Need some water, coffee or anything? You got it?
Well, good morning, Gate City Rotary. My great pleasure to introduce to you all Phil Miller, Thayer Cotton Furniture Company. They're a furniture manufacturer headquartered in High Point. And Phil and I have been friends for God only knows how long. But back in 2010, I believe it was. Is that right? 2009, we were sitting, that's right, because it took a little while to put it all together. We were sitting around a table, much like one of these, with a bunch of other guys, lamenting the way that our veterans were being treated by the current administration. Pretty much ignored, they couldn't get their benefits, no ticker tape parades when they came home from Iraq and Afghanistan and other places where they were. And we thought it would be nice to have an event to honor them. And we happened to be sitting at a shooting reserve called Beaver Pond Sporting Club that Phil's brother owns. And just a little bit about Phil while I'm skipping around here. Any of y'all have ever sat at a desk? Yeah, because this is the old Miller Desk Company. They decided in the mid-90s that they would all retire and sell that thing and quit competing against the Chinese. But back in furniture he is. So. Showing the Chinese what they need to copy. But anyway, so we were sitting around and it was 5 or 6 of us. We thought, what can we do? And we thought, well, hopefully they'd like to come out and shoot. Maybe shoot quail, maybe shoot pheasants, maybe shoot sporting clays, which is clay pigeons. And after we put our thoughts together and thought about it for a while, we said, well, we'll have a sporting clay shoot. That's nice and controllable. And we were shooting, trying to get mostly wounded veterans to come out. The first year we had 22 total. And it wasn't a great big turnout. We hoped for more, but we had to cut our teeth and learn a few things. We actually shot sporting clays that day and threw some pheasants off the tower. So very controlled situation. This past year, we had about 100 veterans, 50 active service people, Somewhere along the way, a fellow by the name of Porter Halliburton, who was from Greensboro, who had been in the Hanoi Hilton with none other than John McCain. Porter called up, and he wanted to come. And we hadn't really thrown it open to anybody like that. Somebody said, well, no, you can't come. And then the guy said it next morning, yeah, and this guy Porter Halliburton called. Well, 3 other people on the board, or 4, knew who he was. We said, wait a minute, we can't turn Porter Halliburton away. And so we threw it open. And so now it's open to any veteran or active duty who served in a foreign land, foreign war. And I'm assuming we probably have a few other people. One of the most notable was Sean Roberts, who was a member of our club. Sean came first as an honoree. That's what we call the folks that we take out. And then several years as a volunteer. The purpose of Enduring Gratitude is to honor these people and give them a day in the field like they've never had before. The retail value probably now with the cost of birds and shotgun shells, coffee and donuts, and we give them breakfast. We have a speaker in the morning, a safety talk, divide them up into groups, send them out to either shoot pigeons or sporting plays. I have a keynote speaker. We've had as high ranking as 3-star generals, and David Shedd, the assistant director of the Department of Defense Intelligence Agency, right under Michael Flynn, when he came to talk to us, and that was a very interesting talk. So we've gained some prominence in the military field. The point is to honor these guys. It would cost somewhere around $750 to $1,000 if you and I went and did this at a retail basis. It is all they have to do is get there. We provide everything, including somewhere in the neighborhood of about 80,000 shotgun shells will be what we will use on February the 12th. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 to 500 sausage and egg biscuits. God only knows how much coffee, tea, water, and like 1,500 dozen donuts. I mean, we feed these guys, we take care of them. And you think, wow, it's just a party in the field for veterans. That's not the main thing that happens, we found out. They get to rub elbows with other people in their same boat. And I can't tell you how many of them have come back the second year or have sent us letters thanking us. Because one, when you get discharged from the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the SEALs, the Coast Guard, or the Air Force, nobody calls to check up on you, no matter what your medical status. You may go back to a hospital, something like that, but it's no more than your doctor relationship that you have. And a lot of these people have very special needs at this point in life. And by the way, we have wheelchairs. We can take them out in a track wheelchair. I personally am a driver. I typically like to haul a group around that maybe is mobile challenged. I had one guy one time say, can I go by my truck? I said, sure. He pulls out a hammer and starts beating on his ankle. I did not know he had a steel ankle, but he had bent it and was limping. And he was out there banging on that ankle. So, and his other buddy, they own a company called Stumpy's Guns down at the coast on the Stumpy Swamp, but that's not why it's called Stumpy's Guns. They only have one live ankle between the two of them. One guy is a double amputee and the other guy is a single amputee, and he was the one banging on his ankle with a hammer. So, I mean, you just, and you don't know that these people are hurt or damaged in any other way. I had the most moving thing that's ever happened to me at this, and this tells the tale of why it's a good thing to do. I had a wife come up to me and she saw my red hat because Phil and I and all the other guys on the board wear a red hat. Everybody else wears an orange hat. So we know who's who. His wife came up to me almost in tears, and her husband had been hurt in a parachuting accident in training, not even in combat, but in training. And he had the year before, he had met another fellow, totally by accident, who had been hurt in the same way, in the same type of accident. And the first fellow had found a doctor at Duke who knew how to operate on this. And because of that, this fellow who had been in a wheelchair was now walking, and she came up, I'm sorry, chokes me up, but she started crying over the fact that we had helped. Sean Roberts, when he came to our club, came here to speak, okay? And at that time, he was not in our club. He was, his wife worked for Kelly Harrell. And his doctor told him the best way to get over his severe PTSD was to come speak to any group that he could. Didn't matter if it's 2 people or 100, get out and try and speak and let those people know. Sean got up and gave this presentation about catching the #1 bomb maker in the Helmand province, being blown up in an IED losing half the guys in his group, saved by the grace of God, the IED that he was within 15 inches of, an artillery shell, wired to go off, did not go off, nobody knows why, saving his life and setting him off to catch the bomb maker, who he was going to kill. He had the gun on the guy's head. He chased him down with a broken arm and a severe head injury, chased him down, pat him down. 2 Afghan soldiers begged him to not pull the trigger. He said, I took up the slack. The guy was already bleeding because I had my gun on his forehead. And I was going to kill him right there because he just killed half my squad. And if he had pulled the trigger, they wouldn't have caught 50 other bomb makers. So we honored Sean. But today, Sean is assistant DA in Tennessee. He went from not being able to look the group in the eye and very quiet. And I looked at Kelly Harrell and said, we got to get this guy into Rotary and we got to help him. He was the first military scholarship that was given in all Rotary. We had to go all the way to the top, to the president of Rotary International, through our district, our president, district governor, and whatnot, to give him a $1,200 scholarship to join Gate City Rotary. That had not been heard of before. And that was the first one. I don't think there have been many more since then, but if we run across somebody, there will be. So there's a first for Rotary. Sean went through some treatments. We hooked him up with some doctors. We met some people. That's a long introduction. I'm sorry. But anyway, bottom line is Sean it benefited greatly. All right, without further ado, Bill Miller. I'm sorry, Bill Miller. I got rolling.
It was a question, who was gonna go first?
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. You guys and ladies have been very supportive of Enduring Gratitude for many years, and we greatly appreciate that. I would like for you to know, for what it's worth, is that, which I think is worth a lot. I was in Raleigh several weeks ago in the the capital city Rotary Club, was very gracious in supporting us with a very nice sponsorship, and actually ended up getting some individual sponsors from that as well. So one of our board members, Mark Carter, actually lives in Raleigh, and he's a member of that club. Anyway, as Chip was saying, we started this event, this organization. This will be our 14th event, and for me, it's there are a lot of special days in all of our lives, from the time we got married to the time we had our firstborns, you name it. This is one of the most special things that I've ever been associated with. I didn't serve, and this was to be for the veterans and the active military guys, period. Not to look at the volunteers or the sponsors and say, look at us, look at what we're doing. That is not the case whatsoever. This is their day. And I will tell you, just like Chip said, when you see these guys with their peers, and this is the most special aspect of it all. They're not with other people. They're with their buddies. They're with the guys and the ladies that they were in the trenches with in a lot of cases. We'll get groups of people that, veterans that'll come back and they serve together. Sometimes they served there was a group in Desert Storm that created a chat, and they met each other online and then had this reunion there. This goes back 4 or 5 years ago. Now they come every year. We got guys that come in from Wisconsin, Texas, Florida. I'm not even sure how they found out about us, but it's really just incredibly gratifying as to what we are able to experience. So I'll tell you a little bit about what and Chip alluded to it to a degree. We started off 14 years ago with 22 guys. We actually did it in a collaboration with the evolving the infancy of the Wounded Warriors Project and it was founded out of Fort Bragg. And it's a great organization. They do tremendous work. What we found out is that once we got involved with them, they wanted for us to funnel all the funding through them. And that really was not what we wanted to do. We're an all volunteer. We don't have any paid person whatsoever. And of course, we're in crunch time now, so we're 5 weeks out from having our event. And that's as many events go, that's when, most of the work really gets done. But many of us put in, I don't know, hundreds of hours literally to make this happen. And we're grateful to do it. So this is hard-earned, solicited money. We're not a company. It takes about $65,000 to $70,000 to put on this event. We have about a $15,000 to $20,000 fund that kind of helps buffer us in the event that we have a shortfall. We're not into foundations. We're not into trying to accumulate money. We want to put it all back and grow our organization. But the other thing that philosophically we weren't comfortable with was giving another organization as worthy as Wounded Warriors is. They wanted 35% of our money to funnel it through their organization. And we just felt like that didn't meet with our mission. So while we have many wounded people that are associated with that now come to the event, we just decided to be an independent company, organization. So it's enduringgratitude.org. We have a website. You can go to it and see more about it. So anyway, what I've done today is put together, first of all, a PowerPoint, and then we're going to have a drone video that's all put together. Again, everything you'll see here, we have photographers that come. Chip was alluding to it, talking about earlier with some of y'all this morning. People volunteer to come to be photographers. They volunteer to come to do, it takes 150 volunteers approximately. And it takes, and we will sponsor right around 150, give or take, might be 145, might be 170 active and veteran members of our U.S. military. Typically that breakdown is about 100 or so veterans and then 50 to 60 active military guys. And they typically come from either Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne is always highly represented, the Rangers, Special Forces. These are incredible individuals. And then you'll see SEALs from the Marines, and then people from Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. But anyway, we can go through, if I can get the clicker, thank you. Just right, left.
Yep.
So the early years, this was our first group. Again, some of the people that we've met, like Chip alluded to, I mean, I've heard stories, and you really don't know a lot of times whether you should even bring it up. It's kind of you want to be respectful. Sometimes people want to talk. What we found was once they understand how, what a atmosphere we create, they really want to open up. It's really very therapeutic for them to talk about their experiences. And we've just all heard amazing stories from many of them. There was a young man right there in the center. He's the gentleman with the dark brown long sleeve shirt. He was 82nd Airborne. And this young man grew up on a little farm in Michigan. He was telling me his story. He said, sir, all I ever wanted to do was be a paratrooper at 82nd Airborne. Now, I get choked up about things like this too, because it's amazing. He was 18 years old. Goes to Fort Bragg, served for 25 years. I'm sitting there having lunch with him, and I said, well, we want people to sit down. I said, well, sir, please have a seat. He goes, I'm sorry, sir, I can't sit. I went, oh my gosh. And he said, no, and I saw the look on my face. He said, no, it's okay. He said, on my last jump, he said, I jumped 2,487 times. And he said, I was a platoon leader. And he said, on my last jump over the desert, in Iraq, he said, I don't know, I can't even remember what happened. I don't know if I got shot before I hit the ground, or if I lost consciousness before I hit the ground. Anyway, it shattered his lower vertebrae in his back. And he said, so now I've got this wires that create shocks that keep his muscles twitching. And he said, as bad as that is, he said, the one thing that has occurred through the war is the medical technology that's come about allows me to stand up and walk today as opposed to being in a wheelchair. He said, but they're getting ready to transition me out. He said, I got transitioned out just a few days ago, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but when I look at these pictures and I think back at these young men and ladies and these are just the salt of the earth people. We've had, I'm going to show you some other people who go through, 3-star generals, Tintovo. I mean, we go down the list, but these are the guys that were in the trenches that made it all happen. So this again just goes to the early day. This is our 5-stand. So initially, before we had a full sporting clay course, a 5-stand is a 5-station platform where you shoot 5 shots from each operator. Now here's Porter Howard. Porter actually was our guest speaker about 10 years ago. He's going to be our guest speaker again in February 12th. And he was a POW in the Hanoi Hilton. And the Hanoi Hilton were cages that they moved him around in. I mean, he was a POW for 7 years. And if you ever get a chance to hear his story, you will just ask yourself, what kind of intestinal fortitude does it take to just get yourself through it? And as he told us, he said, the only thing I wanted to do is to get back to see my daughter and my wife. They created this. So here he is. He was a commander. He was a Navy commander. He got shot down. He said they're putting him in these cages and they're adjacent. He said, so in the course of the typical day, the guards would have 1 hour, usually between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, where there would not be any guards there. And so these young guys at 18, 19, 20 to maybe 23, 24 years old, figured out their own version of a Morse code to bang and bang. I don't even know how they did it. And all they would do was, hey buddy, how are you doing? Are you okay? Hang in there. They did this for 7 years. Anyway, Porter's going to be our speaker February 12th, and he asked if he could do this. And we said, of course. He goes, it'll be the day 49 years ago that I left, and to come back to the United States. This is coming February the 12th. If any of y'all would like to come, just to come to lunch to be our guest and to hear his talk, you're totally welcome to come.
Can I say something?
Sure.
It'd be fun to come out there for lunch, yes, and to just kind of see and listen to that. But I volunteered last year for the first time. I was at the greeting table, which totally blew me away. I mean, it was really got to greet and talk and meet with each and every one that came in through that door. And I was extremely moved. I don't even really know how to explain more than that. And then I got to serve food. You didn't mention the dinner or what that main meal or whatever on top of donuts and the breakfast was. And they're so gracious and they are so humble. And I would highly recommend coming out and volunteering for that day. It's just something you need to do, if not this year, it's something.
Thank you.
And Bill, if I could just add, Porter has given his presentation to his club in recent years, and it's just he's an extraordinary person, and it's an extraordinary presentation to make. And many of you do know his daughter, Dabby Sanders, who's here in Greensboro with her husband Walker. She's a senior project manager at Action Greensboro, but he's just a remarkable person, and it's well worth hearing what he has to say, what he's doing, and what he's giving us.
You know, the one thing that struck me, yes, sir.
Are y'all in need of volunteers?
Sir,
Very much so.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean,
Volunteers and
yeah, I'm willing to do both.
Yeah, if you'll just go to enduringgratitude.org, and it's very easy. You'll see volunteer registration.
I've done it before. Gail's right. It's well worth it.
Thank you very much. You know, the one thing that Porter said, and I want to steal his thunder, you really should have him back. If you've never heard him, and you could hear him 10 times and it would still be just as riveting. He said, you know, what we endured, what we had to endure, what we got ourselves through was extreme torture. And he said, well, and some of my friends that, you know, when we were being discharged and getting ready to leave, he goes, you know, some of my buddies were very bitter. When they despised, they hated the Viet Cong. He said, but I walked out of that place and I said, I'm going to forgive you. Because if I don't, I'll bear this for the rest of my life and I won't be good to anybody, especially my family. And he said, what does it take for you to have endured 7 years of being a POW and then be able to walk out of there and say, I forgive you. I got to get back to my life. Just unbelievable. So here's some of the ladies that, you know, that start off and we give them a t-shirt, and this is where they come in and sign in, and this is part of the lodge. Really beautiful facility, not because my brother owns it. I kind of helped him. We built this thing from scratch. It literally was a 130-acre farm. It was thrown over. He always bird hunted, and he had this vision for wanting a hunting preserve, and really incredible piece. It's a first-class facility. We want to provide a first-class experience for all these people, and they come up to you after and say, you know, I would have never had the opportunity to do something like this. Can't tell you how much I enjoy it. So this is just, it's an amazing, just to be there. Biscuitville, of course, always helps with the practice. Adam has been our title sponsor for many years. Big Rock Sports, I don't know how much you know about them. They're a tremendous company. They win between Winchester and Federal. They donate all the shotgun shells for us, which is a real problem in today's world. If any of you guys shoot, I mean, the shortage of ammunition.
Shotgun shells have gone from $3.25 a box to as much as $8 to $10 a box now for 25 shells. And we're going to use 75, possibly 80,000 shells. We've got to have them. One year we ran out, and Phil and I were running around all the Walmarts within 20 miles of Beaver Pond trying to find anybody's shotgun shells.
It was crazy.
While it was going on.
So this is one of the outdoor pavilions we have, and this is where we have lunch and speaker, and it's really an incredible day. Doug Harrison, the board member, he's a former Marine, great guy. Then we group up guys. You see 3, 4, 5. Those are groups of 4 to 5 veterans or active guys that go together. A lot of times they want to be with somebody they never met. A lot of times they want to have kind of a mini reunion with guys they serve with. So we let them all decide how they want to do it. But then just every one of these guys is just incredible individuals. And ladies, I mean, we've had some phenomenal. So people donate their 4-wheelers. You know, we need to transport. The whole facility is about 200 acres, and we utilize about 70 to 80 acres of it. So there's some logistical issues. This is one of the tractors that if you're a disabled veteran, we actually had a disabled guy came out, and I mean, by all rights, he should have ridden one of these things. And he looked at us, he said, "I'm not riding that darn thing. I'm walking." And, you know, and this guy had, I mean, it was just amazing. So the tower shoot, we take these guys out to the field. And this is a 40-foot tower. This was actually a pheasant tower shoot. We began in England back about 150 years ago, and we now have them here in the U.S. and we toss the birds off the. And these are the people volunteer to come and bring their dogs to retrieve the birds. Just magnificent. This is their world. This is their life. These dogs live to.
We got to have bird trackers. We've got to have bird cleaners. We've got to have kitchen help. We got to have cleanup help. We have to have safety officers. We have to have group leaders for every group. We have to have at least 2 trappers and a safety person at every station. And 75 to 80,000 shotgun shells being fired every year for 14 years. We've had 2 accidental discharges. They were by the same lady on the same gun on the same day. We retired the gun. And nobody was hurt, I might add. Yeah. She retired herself, but we retired together.
So anyway, it's just so much fun to watch these guys shoot. And you know what? We were out there one day. Military guys can, you know, they can hit a quarter. They can take a rifle and hit a quarter from a half a mile. Some of them don't know which end of the shotgun to use. It's really funny watching them try to figure out, you know, how you swing the gun and what you do, and they're ragging on each other. I mean, it's just funny. And now the country boys that are military guys, they understand what bird hunting is all about. It's the city guys. Anyway, it's just so funny to watch them. And when the birds come off the tower, they see those birds, they get all excited. They start shooting. The bird's not even anywhere close to hitting it, you know. And we were saying, "My gosh, you're not hitting it." And I said, "Guys, it doesn't make any difference how many birds they kill or how many, look at the looks on their faces. I mean, that's worth the price of admission." That young lady, she put them all to shame. Just Chris Williams, the guy on the left, he was our speaker. He was a pathfinder. A pathfinder in the Army is the guy that goes out by himself to take on whatever mission there is to either locate someone who's down. This guy's story was he went and found a down helicopter, and they got ambushed while he was at it. And luckily they had, between the machine guns, they had whatever, he took out 40 guys by himself and got injured to the point where it was amazing that he even lived through it. And you look at these guys and you just say to yourself, thank the good Lord that we have individuals like this who allow us to do all the things that we're able to do. Anyway, I could go on for hours about these guys. There's Chip. Now, who is this guy?
That guy.
I think he's stuck. I think he could have been reversed. If he didn't know how to.
No, there's a nice flag on that 6-wheeler.
This is where we're cleaning the birds. We clean all the pheasant at the end and we package them together so they're able to take home 2 pheasant.
Pheasant's like a 3/4 size chicken for anybody who hadn't had it. It's very good. It does taste just like chicken.
So the sporting clay course is a 14. This is like playing golf except you're shooting shotguns. And you go through this course and you shoot different in different venues and open fields and in wooded areas, and it's just a lot of fun. The lunch, pork shoulders, chicken, baked beans. I mean, it is a full-fledged, it's the greatest food in the world. We have guys that stay up the night before cooking all this on these grills right outside the lodge there. Of course, we always say grace and do all the things that we thank the good Lord for allowing us to be a part of this. This is Ken Tovo. Ken Tovo was U.S. military, West Point graduate, 82 class, I believe. He's 3-star general, just retired. Great guy. He was head of all Central Command, Afghanistan, Iraq. Just amazing. You know, we always have a speaker. It's very candid. Each time we have a speaker, it's a former general, or no matter if they retired, and you'll ask him, go, do you have any problems saying anything? He goes, I'm retired. I can pretty much say anything I want to now. They're respectful of what they do, but they really give us great insight. This was Norm McDaniel. Norm was our Air Force colonel, and he got shot down. He was a POW for 6.5 years. So he and Porter shared some incredible experiences together. We have people that donate. We have door prizes. This guy got the big one. He got the 543 flat screen. This is Ken Tovo again with Mike Lazario to his right. Mike was Lieutenant Colonel. They were all in the same class together. Mike's last mission was to go to Vietnam to help recover when they finally let us back in there several years ago, to go in and bring back all the remains. They still had been keeping remains. And he worked with his cohort or his counterpart with the Vietnamese army, and was a former Viet Cong general. Just was absolutely amazed that the U.S. would send 2,000 people back to Vietnam, which he headed up, to recover the remains. And of course our mantra is no man left behind, no person left behind. And his Vietnam general said, we would never do that. We would care less about who was left behind. He said, so that was really, maybe he said this was special time. There's Chris Williams again. Ernie,
Yeah.
oh geez.
Sorry.
Yeah, I had it right here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll come to it in a second. World War II veteran, lives in Burton, just passed away this past year. So Ernie volunteered to go into the Navy in 1943. He said, I fudged on my application. I was supposed to be 17. Actually, I was 16. He ends up serving in the Pacific as a support ship for submarines, putting together torpedoes. And so he said, I came back after the war. People said, well, golly, he said, Ernie, weren't you scared? And he said, nobody told us we were supposed to be scared. I mean, it was such a matter-of-fact way of looking at things. You know, the greatest generation, and my dad and so many people, Thayer Coggin, who formed our company, they lived in the Depression. They came up with nothing. They had as they would say, I was thankful if we had food on the table, a roof over our head, and just clothes on our backs. So they grew up with nothing. And then they got called to save the world in World War II. And really prior to that, I don't know how much y'all read about World War II, it's just kind of a buff for me. The rest of the world really had hardly any respect for the US until World War II, when we saved all of their rear ends. Both in Europe and in the Pacific. I'm sorry. So anyway, we came back, and so Ernie came, he was 93 years old. He was 90 years old when he came to shoot. And we asked him to come, and he goes, you know, I've done about everything I want to do in my life. He goes, but I would like to see if I can kill a pheasant one more time. So he had been shooting, and he couldn't, he's got only one eye. He wasn't able to hit it. So anyway, he said, can I try this again in the afternoon? We said, absolutely. So I went out there, we got a couple guys, I got these two younger military guys that had been knocking it down. I said, look, you're gonna need the side of him. And one way or the other, Ernie's going over here with the well, I'll be daggone, here comes the pheasant, and of course, and he knocked it down himself. He plucked the feathers off, put it in his hat, and wore that thing the rest of the day. It was worth $1 million to him, and there he is. So that's the end of I want to show you this video we do. It's a drone. It's about a 3.5 minute. Again, I apologize for the time we're going over. Appreciate your indulgence.
Well, let's get teed up. This is a t-shirt, Gate City Rotary on the back. Everybody gets one of these. Everybody gets a hat, a safety kit, there's glasses, hand sanitizer, earplugs, and all that. We have to raise all that, have them volunteer. And Gate City Rotary has obviously been a great sponsor. About 40% of the pheasants, the rest get to go through.
It's really nice that they do this for, for the active duty soldiers and for the veterans and stuff. It's just, the amount of work that goes into something like this has got to be incredible for this amount of guys and stuff. So, the sponsors and everyone that's, that comes out and volunteers, what a great effort, what a way to say, thank you, and to appreciate guys for their service.
Yeah, how many years are you coming here?
This is my first year. Yeah, first up,
How are you enjoying it? Anything else you want to tell us? Come from today. Yeah, is how many years have you been coming? Yeah, how are you enjoying it?
Great.
Anything else you want to say for the camera?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention and opportunity.
It's tough. It's hard. Guys, if there's any questions, take those. Feel last four.
4810.
That would be me.
Go, Lisa. Lisa.
Since I put